Thanks, Kristen. Good morning, church. I will say this right out the top. First of all, my name is Jeremy, one of the pastors here at New Story. I work with our students, our creative team. Glad that you're here. If it's your first time in a long time, whatever it is, we're glad that you chose to be here today on what we call Vision Sunday. Now, I will also say this. I did not grow up in Kansas City. I'm not a Chiefs fan. I'm a Packers fan. Listen, I got enough punishment. Can we stop? I want to say this. On my birthday, I'll get throughout the day, like a couple texts here and there. Hey, Jeremy, we're thankful for you. Glad you're here. All that different stuff. Glad you were born. When the Packers lose, my phone lights up like Christmas. And so that's rude. I will remember. Like, I know the Bible says keep no record of wrongs, but I will remember. I will remember who did that. Anyway. If you are, like I said, if you are newer around here, today I want you to know, today is really geared towards those of you that call New Story your home. So if that's not you, we're glad that you're here. We expect you to be here. If you're skeptical about Jesus, if you're just not, whatever it is, we're glad that you chose to be here. But today is primarily geared towards our church, and so I'm going to be speaking to our church very specifically. But I think there's going to be something for you even in the end today for you to take home. But back before streaming services became a thing, do you guys remember when we had to buy the DVDs of TV shows if we had to watch more than one episode, like a bunch of peasants? You guys remember this? I have grown up loving the show Friends, or at least in my later life, I've loved the show Friends, and I have the whole 10 season DVD set, so I can just go back to back with the extended versions and everything like that. But now it's on streaming everywhere, so I don't even use it. But back in the day, we did have to watch shows one episode at a time, one day of the week at a time. And so imagine you've waited all week. It is finally Thursday night. You've suffered through the week. It's Thursday night. You sit down to watch your your half-hour episode of Friends. 22 minutes with commercials, by the way. You sit down to watch your half-hour episode of Friends. You get your drink. You get your popcorn. You sit down. You start it. And then before you know it, it's over. And now, what do you have to do? You have to wait a whole other week before you can do anything about it. It's a terrible feeling. It's some people have called it a show hole, where we just we're just stuck. And now, with the advent of streaming, since about 2013 became really, really prominent, we don't get that feeling after like a 22-minute episode. We get that feeling after a 7-hour binge of an entire season. And now we don't know if we can move our legs, let alone move on, realizing we have to wait another year for the next season to come out. You guys know this feeling? Yeah, it's terrible. Or if you're Stranger Things, it was 584 days between season 4 and season 5. So hopefully you never have to wait that long again, but sometimes it happens. But have you ever sat down as a very disciplined person that you are and said, tonight, we're just doing one episode of our show? And if you were to sit down and do one episode of a show, what show would you watch? Shout it out. You can talk back here. I know it's church, but we can do that. NCIS. Castle. What else? What is it? The Lowdown. I don't even know that show. I'll look it up. Thank you. I'm also taking suggestions. But if we're sitting down, we're going to watch one episode of Castle. We're going to watch one episode of Lowdown, one episode of NCIS. We're a disciplined person tonight. Not a whole season, of course. Just one episode. So you sit down, you press play, and then 3 hours later, you see this. And you're like, Netflix, mind your own dang business. Continue watching, thank you. That's what we would likely do. And Netflix, I don't think Netflix asks that question or does this to offend you or make you feel guilty. If you do feel guilt, maybe that's a good thing. Pay attention to that. But if you do feel that, I don't think it's intended, because it knows you didn't intend to be here this long. Maybe you didn't intend to lose your whole evening. You just never made another decision. You didn't say yes to watching 5 episodes back to back. You just never said no to more than one. Do you understand what I'm saying? Nothing went wrong. You weren't irresponsible. You weren't even lazy. You were just this word right here. You were just comfortable. And comfort is sneaky. And maybe you like that situation there and you feel it when Netflix challenges you a little bit. Have you ever had that feeling or that thought, how did I get here? How did I get here? Not even in like a dramatic way, like you had some big failing or anything like that. Just gradually, how did I get here? Like in your marriage, for example, you didn't stop loving each other. You just stopped purposefully choosing each other, and now you're just living as roommates. Or maybe you just stopped deciding. You didn't decide to raise your kids on autopilot. You just stopped leading and kept reacting, and now they're kind of old, and you don't know what to do with that. Or maybe it's your health. You didn't intend to just not take care of yourself, but you kept saying, "I'll get to it," and getting to it never comes. Whatever it is for you, you kept showing up. You kept doing good things. Even you stayed busy. But maybe you've experienced this somewhere along the way through that process. Life became something you were participating in, but not really choosing anymore. Have you ever felt this? Just me. You didn't stop to choose where you were headed. You just kind of ended up there, and now you think, how did I get here? And I think that feeling is harder than like straight up failure when stuff is like really bad and you have a drop down, drag out, things blow up. You're like, I am now motivated, and like that motivates a huge change in our lives. But comfort can keep you asleep for a very long time and get you to this? How? And here's what I've learned in my life from living life with a lot of other people. Nobody plans to drift. If you were here last week, Pierce talked about that a little bit. Nobody schedules like apathy into their schedule and is like, today I'm just not going to live intentionally. I'm just going to while out a little bit. Nobody like actually really does that. It just happens when we stop choosing. It just happens when we let life happen to us and we're just participating in life. Or it's happening to us. And that's why the statement from a pastor named Andy Stanley keeps coming back to me. It says this: everybody ends up, I killed it, electricity. Everybody ends up somewhere, but very few people end up somewhere on purpose. See the difference? It's true in our marriage, it's true in our parenting, it's true in our health, it's true with our work. And of course, we're in church, we're going to talk about it. It's true in our relationship with Jesus. See, drift or ending up like this in our walk with Jesus doesn't usually look like this dramatic, I'm just quitting church, I'm done, I'm dead, like I'm over it, I'm moving on. It doesn't necessarily look like that. Drift in your walk with Jesus often looks like this. You just keep showing up without asking why anymore. Why am I going this morning? I know it's the habit, I know it's what we do. That's what Sundays, that's what we do. But we don't really ask why. Or why we're serving anymore, or anything like that. You serve, you attend, you didn't stop caring necessarily, but somewhere along the way, just like in all those other areas, what started out as intentional and meaningful just kind of slowly became automatic for us. Where we stopped asking, why are we doing this? And we just kept doing it. See what happened in that moment. I'll tell you what happened in that moment. In that moment, you lost, say it with me, you lost vision. And when I say vision, I don't mean some like dream or goal or church slogan that we're going to say here or anything like that. It's not necessarily that. What I mean when I say vision is you've lost the understanding of what you're doing and why you are doing it. And you're just going through the motions. And the Bible actually puts really intentional language to this exact same experience. Where activity like stays high, but direction just quietly fades away. And Solomon, this man who's perceived as the wisest man who ever lives, as the Bible describes him, he says this in Proverbs 29:18. He says, where there is no revelation, where there is no vision, as many translations say, where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint. He's saying that when it comes to your life of following Jesus, when there is no clear direction of understanding what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, you lose discipline and you begin to drift. And if you look back on your life and you're honest, you'll be like, that's exactly what happened. I stopped choosing where I was going and just allowing life to happen to me, and now I got no vision for what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and now I'm undisciplined and I'm drifting. When you allow comfort to just slowly put you on autopilot, this is what you can expect, because you have no vision. So we need vision, yes. We need to know what we're doing and why we're doing it, yes. But here's the problem that most of us live with, and you've experienced this if you've been following Jesus for any length of time, or maybe even outside of that, you've experienced this, that we don't struggle to know what matters. Like, we don't struggle to know what matters. Like, if you're a Christian, you show up to church, you learn about what matters. We just actually struggle to live like it matters. We all agree that vision is very valuable and important, and it matters, but you also know this to be true. Valuable things aren't always our values. Like, you know that health and looking after your health is valuable, but it's not a personal value for you. You know that money matters and is valuable and stewardship of it matters, but not all of us practice stewardship of our money because what's valuable isn't always our value. Knowing something is important and organizing your life around it are two very different things, and that's where the disconnection shows up. And maybe you can read the Bible, or maybe God makes something very clear to you. You can see what's right. You can agree that it matters. You can even say, yeah, I need that in my life. And maybe you feel some of that as you come on a Sunday morning. You sit and hear the teaching of the Bible just like this, and you're like, yeah, I feel that I do need that. That's good, Jeremy. And then you walk out the door and your life is not built around it in any meaningful way. It's not that you fail to see it, it's that you fail to live it. The reality is that having just vision isn't enough. Knowing what we're doing and why we're doing it isn't enough. And that's why the Bible doesn't talk about vision as an idea doesn't talk about vision as an idea just to admire, but actually something that we build our lives around and with intentionality. See, through this book, God shows us who we are, whose we are, and how life actually works. And like Solomon said, when that direction, when that understanding is not valued, people drift, and where it is valued and lived out, people flourish. Statistically, I'm not going to get into it now because I don't know them off the top of my head, but statistically for people in church who begin to live this out, you will see lower drug use, lower broken homes, lower poverty, lower all of these different things. Because we have vision that is being lived out. And that gap that we often feel between, the gap that we feel between knowing what matters and actually living it out is very frustrating. And it's demoralizing and really, really sucks. And that's why often people are just like, yeah, I'm kind of just done with it. I'm tired of feeling the guilt. I'm tired of feeling that. But it points to something very important. That vision, this clarity that we get from the Bible of what we're doing and why. Vision doesn't fail because it's unclear. This is very clear. It fails because it's unlived. We don't fail to see it. We just fail to organize our lives around it. Here's what I'll tell you. If as a church, New Story Church, if we are going to step in 2026 with a vision that actually flourishes and changes something, it's going to take every one of us living it. And so rather than our question being, how did I get here? Like, how did I just end up in this? The question actually changes to, how do we get there? How do we get where vision moves from our heads to our hands? How do we get there? How does vision move from our head to our hands? Well, this is why I love the Bible. Well, one of the many reasons I love the Bible. Because it doesn't just tell us what vision is. It's like, hey, here's what you do and why you do it. That's why it's important as a follower of Jesus. It doesn't just do that. But it actually shows us how vision forms in a person and moves them to action. We see that all over. And we're going to look at one example. And his name is Nehemiah. So I want you, if you have a Bible with you, I want you to turn to Nehemiah 1. Nehemiah 1. And if you don't have a Bible with you, grab one of those hardback black ones in the seat in front of you. And that's going to be page 383 in those. And as always, if you don't have a Bible at home, please take one of those with you. That's our gift to you. We would love for you to have it. Nehemiah 1. It's ominously quiet out there. You guys with me so far? Still ominously quiet. Now, I want to catch us up because I'm sure you guys don't know all of what happens in Nehemiah and all the context leading up. So without doing a whole survey, starting in Genesis 1 and leading up, I'm just going to catch us up really quick here so we understand what we're reading. Throughout the Old Testament and throughout many, many times in Israel's history, God's people, Israel, they continually choose idolatry over and over. And so eventually, there's punishment for that. And God allows a nation called Babylon to come in and basically ransack all of the nation of Israel, destroy Jerusalem, destroy the temple, and take all those people into exile. It's like, we own you now. We own this place. Now, over 100 years after that took place, if you ever hear about the Babylonian captivity or the exiles, that's what that's talking about. Them taken out of the land and displaced somewhere else. Now, over 100 years passes, and a nation called Persia rises up. An empire, Persia, rises up, and now the people of Israel who were in exile find themselves under this different regime. They have different rules. They are not ruling as harshly as Babylon did. See, Persia is actually allowing people, some of the exiles, to go back to where they were from. And so if you read the book right before Nehemiah, if you read in Ezra, the king of Persia allows some of the people of Israel to go back and rebuild the temple. It's this beautiful moment that you wouldn't expect. But there were generations of Jewish people that decided not to go back to the land. I mean, you can imagine, your family has lived in a place for 100 years, multiple generations. You're not going to, I have a life here now. I'm going to uproot and go back to this place. Some people stayed instead of going. And here's the thing, when it comes to Nehemiah, he stayed. And you would think that he would be abused and oppressed, but he's actually living a pretty cush life. He is respected by the king, working in the government, working with the king very directly, has his ear, can talk to him, knows him personally. That's a big deal. He's living by all, our standards, a very comfortable life. And that's, I think, what makes the story of Nehemiah so compelling. Because Jerusalem had been destroyed generations, about 140 years earlier. And Nehemiah didn't cause it. It wasn't his sin that led them into exile. It wasn't anything like that. He wasn't a part of it. He wasn't a pastor. He wasn't a priest. He wasn't a prophet. He had no reason to have to go back to the land. He was living okay. But one day, some of his Jewish brothers and sisters from Jerusalem come back, and he meets with them, and he has to make small talk like any of us would. Hey, how are things back home? How do you think they responded? How would we respond? Hey, things are going all right. We're doing okay. We're doing great. How are things back here? Oh, we're just keeping busy, staying busy. Isn't that what we do even in this place? Hey, how was your week? Staying busy, man. That's something to be lauded as a good thing. Oh, you're so busy? I'm going to go down a different, never mind, I was going to go down a different thing. That's not what today's about. Self-control. So they come to him. They don't necessarily make small talk, but this is what they say in verse 3. I want you to look at your Bibles, make sure I'm not making anything up as always. But verse 3, I'll put it up here. It says this. They said to me, Nehemiah, those who survived the exile are back in the province and are in great trouble and disgrace. Oof. Verse 4. The wall of Jerusalem, sorry, I have the wrong passage there. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates have been burned with fire. It's like when you ask somebody, hey, how you doing? And they're like, listen, my mom just died. You're like, I was just a pleasantry. I wasn't expecting to go deep into this, but here we are. That's kind of what it feels like a little bit. But instead of Nehemiah just trying to move past it and dodge this, it stops him. He's like, the walls are still broken, like they're still vulnerable. And the gates are all burned up, like there's no thriving life there or anything right now. Now, Nehemiah had known about Jerusalem forever. He grew up like he was a Jewish man. Even though he was in a different culture, he would have still had his Jewish heritage and would have known. This wasn't new information about Jerusalem being ransacked and broken down. But finally for him, it just stops being like background noise. And it finally mattered. And I think that is how vision usually begins. Not with God telling you something you haven't ever heard in your life before. It's but actually God not allowing you to ignore something that you already know. This is the moment that drift gets interrupted. This is the moment our autopilot and our comfort gets disrupted. And Scripture tells us exactly how Nehemiah responds to it. It's beautiful. It says this in verse 4. When I heard these things, sat down and I wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. Notice real quick what he doesn't do there, that we would often do. He doesn't instantly start strategizing, like, okay, I know some guys here, we can go get about a dozen of them, and they're good at like building foundations, and I got these guys over here and putting together all the blueprints for what they're going to do. He doesn't instantly go into fix it and strategize and try to figure it out, nor does he hear that and say, yeah, someone should do something about that? No, when he hears about the condition of Jerusalem, he refuses to ignore it. He stops, he sits, he weeps, and prays and fasts. Why? Because in that moment, God placed in him this dissatisfaction between what is and what should be. He knows what it should be, and he's hearing about what it is, and there's a dissatisfaction in his soul, in his bones, that he can't ignore. You can call it this, a holy discontent. And this is where vision is really, really born, not out of panic and outrage and obligation, no, but when that inner unrest in you, that thing in you just refuses to stop, refuses to go away, and instead of this thing where it's just like, someone should do something about that, and it just stays out there and stays at arm's length, it actually becomes a personal responsibility now. That's a holy discontent. What Nehemiah experiences in this moment is when you can't just keep participating in the same thing over and over and over. I love that he didn't just see what could be, he felt responsible for what should be. He didn't just have vision of what's going on and what needs to happen. He felt personally responsible. A holy discontent in him says, man, I got to do something about it. And it made him weep and fast and pray. Now watch this. When he goes to prayer, he doesn't say, God, fix this. Notice what he does. Verse 6. It says this, I confess the sins we Israelites, including myself and my father's family, have committed against you. We have acted very wickedly towards you. We have not obeyed the commands, decrees, and laws you gave your servant Moses. Now, something to notice here. He's saying we. This is 140 years after all this happened. He didn't do it. It wasn't his sin that got them exiled. It wasn't him that broke all this down. It wasn't him that violated all these different things. But something changed in him. And like I said, he didn't just see what could be. He felt responsible for what should be. And he says, I know that was my dad's and my dad's dad's and my dad's dad's dad's. But I'm a part of that now, and I want to be a part of fixing it. And this is what he does. And this is where vision stops being this like thing that just stays out here and actually gets from our head to our hands. And we actually start to live these things out. And that's the shift from when you stop saying, yeah, someone should do something about this, someone should do something, you start saying, God, what are you asking me to do? Think about all the different things, the injustices and evils that we hear about in our world. We're like, man, something's got to be done. Imagine having the boldness to pray, God, what do you want me to do about that? That's what he does. Vision no longer stays theoretical and unlived, but a holy discontent moves it from his head to his hands. And that's why vision doesn't fail, because it's unclear. It fails when no one is willing to take ownership of it. Think about our church. I'm sure if you've been around here for a bit, you've had the vision. Man, I would love to see people come into here and start to follow Jesus and begin a relationship with him. Like you have the vision for it. Oh, I want that so bad. You do? When's the last time that you asked someone to come sit with you in a service? When's the last time you invited one of those neighbors or one of those people to sit in your living room with you and have dinner with them? When's the last time you sat with someone that believes differently than you and had a conversation, maybe about your faith, maybe about Jesus, just maybe about life? When's the last time you were intentional in that way? See, a lot of us have the vision, but we don't have the ownership. Or you get the vision, man, I would love to see our church have such an impact in our community and so involved that if News Story disappeared one day, they'd be like, we are missing something. We have that vision. I think you know where it's going. When's the last time you signed up to serve at a local organization? When's the last time you were intentional about showing up for our community? Or your neighbors? We got vision, but we don't really have the conviction to do anything about it, and that's why vision stays unlived. But please know, what you're feeling is a good thing. That vision is important. But God doesn't reveal vision, so we'll just agree with it and be like, God, that's a good thing. Yeah, we should do something. No, God reveals vision, so we're going to actually respond to it. And that's what's beautiful about the story of Nehemiah and why I think it fits so well right now for us. It's that he doesn't just feel the burden and agree. He feels a burden, doesn't just agree with the problem. He lets a holy discontent move him like off of just sitting on the sidelines to actually getting involved. For Nehemiah, the mission that he was a part of meant rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. For us, it looks different, but we are continuing the mission Jesus gave us. See, God has never been content with people like recognizing what is broken in our society and just sitting back and praying about it. I mean, even our culture mocks Christians at times for, now, I think they mock Christians for just thoughts and prayers, right? Now, a lot of this, if you don't believe in any sort of power of prayer, that's a problem. We always say around here, praying should be the first thing we do, but not the only thing that we do. Don't just sit back and allow it to stay out there. Do something about it. Vision was never meant to be admired. It was meant to be lived. And when Jesus talks about this mission that he's given us as his followers, if you're a follower of Jesus, you have a mission to make his name known. When he left that with us, he didn't just frame it around comfort and convenience, and he asked, with all that you've seen and all that you understand, who are you going to pray for today? Is that what he left us with? No, he asked, who are you going to help follow me? And the way that he went on to show us how to do that really, really matters. He didn't build his ministry around crowds. I mean, there were crowds, yes, that were around. But real life change that happened in the time of Jesus and in his life, it happened in close proximity with people. Again and again, the transformation in people's lives didn't happen on a stage. It happened around a table. Tables where he ate with sinners and skeptics and disciples who didn't fully even understand everything yet, but they were following him. Tables where people were seen and where stories were shared and where questions were welcomed and weren't judged. And tables where grace was experienced before people actually believed. Tables where people were known. And Jesus lived that way, not by accident, but he knew that the gospel, the message of Jesus, is best shared through relationship with other people. And so if this is how Jesus lived his mission, and even if you look at the early church, and once the church began, they followed the same pattern. And if the mission still matters today, the question for us is, are you going to choose to live that same way, or are you going to allow it to just keep passing by you? Opportunity after opportunity. No, it's not my personality to sit down with people, so we're going to allow it to keep passing by. Which brings us to our vision for 2026, what we are committing to as a church. Me and Pierce and Dennis have sat down, we've prayed about these things. God, what would you have us do? How would you choose to use us today? If we actually set ourselves apart, as he talked about last week, consecrated, basically prepared ourselves for a movement of God, for God to move through us. If we actually did that, God, what would you want to do through us? There's two parts to what we're committing to this year. The first is this. We're committing to 1,000 tables. Now, we're not building tables, you understand, right? We're not constructing tables and putting them in people's homes. No, we're talking about 1,000 intentional moments where people sit across from people. Where you, new story, sit across from someone who is a believer or an unbeliever. And you have lunch, or you have coffee. Or you sit around in your home, or maybe you go out together. See, for us, as we were talking about this, we didn't want a goal that was just out there and like a little too broad. We wanted something that was very specific. We actually wanted something that was in here. This is my kitchen table from my home. And this is a place from personal experience where I've sat with other followers of Jesus and we've grown deeper in relationship together. This is a place where many people in my life that are not followers of Jesus have heard about the hope that is in Jesus at this table. I've sat across from people and shared this like beautiful like dinners and lunches, and sometimes it's not beautiful, sometimes it's pizza rolls, but the conversation's great. So many beautiful moments have happened around this table. Many of you in this room have sat around this table with me. Why? Because that's how Jesus did it. And that's what we're committing to this year. See, when we say 1,000 tables, what we're really saying is we're choosing to carry out the mission of making more and better followers of Jesus the exact same way that he did. And what I've learned is that rows like this they're great for teaching, yes. But tables are where people are known. And discipleship and growth and life change don't happen if you're not known. And so for me, the question isn't like, can the church pull something off like this? 1,000? Really? That's not the question for me. The question for me is very simply this: who will you choose to sit with? Don't even worry about the number right now. The question is, who will you choose to sit with? Who will you make space for around a table? Now, we have roughly 65 owners that are a part of New Store. People say, my yes is down here. I'm committed to this church, committed to this body. That's 65. And if just we went off the owners, to meet this goal of 1,000 tables, that is 15 a person. Just over once a month, you're sitting down with someone and having a conversation and getting to know one another. Maybe it is building community with other Jesus followers, and maybe it's just building a relationship with someone that's far from God. Just over once a month. Now, to help you out, if you know me, you know that I'm going to be at least 40% of the 1,000. That's a joke, okay? I'm not doing that much heavy lifting. But this is an opportunity for all of us to take, to sit across at a table just like this and share life. And here's the thing, the mission of Jesus was never meant to stop at the table and just stay right there. If we know anything about the gospel, it's that it's not just meant to gather us, but it's actually meant to send us out. Yes, tables are where people are known, but the gospel, the message of Jesus, actually sends us out as well. That's why John, the disciple of Jesus that walked with Jesus, he said this in 1 John. Let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. And so if we're going to not just gather around the table, but actually be sent out, there's a second part to our vision this year. Our second part that we're committing to this year is 1,000 hours. 1,000 hours serving our neighbors and our community. See, serving, and many of you know this because you serve here or serve in other areas. I know some of you serve in local organizations, and that's beautiful. But serving is how love is made visible. It's what happens when belief doesn't just stay in the building, but actually goes out and shows up in schools and in neighborhoods and people's homes and local organizations, showing up for families who feel overlooked and overwhelmed, caring for the very people God has put in your path to influence. That's love made visible. And so the question for you then is, where will you choose to show up? Not someone should do something about that. I think that's great. No, where will you choose to show up? So for 2026, we are committing to 1,000 tables and 1,000 hours. 1,000 tables where people are intentional moments where people sit across from people, and 1,000 hours serving our community. And if you do the math, that's the same, just 15 hours a year. If just the 65 owners did it. And there's going to be ways that we can log this and keep tabs on it. Over the next 2 weeks, we're going to talk about exactly that. On the app and on our website, you can log those things. And so we'll actually track where we're at. But just to be clear with both of these, this is not about starting more church programs. Like, we're not going to start a monthly potluck and a monthly community cleanup so that we hit our 1,000 hours and 1,000 tables. No, that defeats the purpose. The point is not so we gather more stuff here. It's to send us out and you gather with people that you have around you. It's about living on mission wherever God has placed you. So keep this in mind, that all the places that you go are an opportunity for this. So your busy schedule that you have is not something that is in the way at all of the mission of Jesus. You're just not choosing to live it in those areas, and so you think you're too full for the way of Jesus. You know, all the games that you go to and all the practices that you attend for your kids, those are opportunities to live out the mission of Jesus, the exact same as sitting in here or serving in an organization. Your job, your schedule, all those things, they're the very place the mission of Jesus is carried out. And it's carried out in those places because holy discontent won't allow us to stay put. And so the question for you is very simply this. What responsibility is mine to carry in this? What responsibility is yours to carry in this? See, like we've seen from Nehemiah, before we move on to anything else and start doing this and try to live out this vision as clearly as possible, Nehemiah didn't leave the conversation with those men and just start building right away. His first movement with the vision that he had in his life was an action. His first movement was attention. He sat down, he wept, he prayed, he fasted, he prepared himself. As Pierce said last week, he consecrated himself. When it comes to 1,000 tables and 1,000 hours, some of us are really ready to get after it. Some of us just aren't. And that's okay, as long as you are not content just staying in that place of, But before God ever does anything through us, he wants to do something in us. And that's why as a church, before we chase the vision, we are choosing to stop and give the Lord our attention, just like Nehemiah did. See, starting tomorrow, we're entering into 21 days of prayer and fasting. And to be clear, fasting is very simply a refraining from food or other vices for spiritual formation. Not to impress God, not to earn anything, but simply allow God space to get us aligned with what he cares about. For God to form us into people that actually want to carry out what he wants us to do. Our fast includes, yes, a fasting from food on Saturdays, and then breaking fast together after our gathering on Sundays. That is part of it. And there is some wiggle room on that. If you have plans set up with someone on a Saturday, fast on Friday. The point is the fast, not exactly the perfect day. But also, on top of that, we are choosing to fast from something we love. A distraction, a vice. A place where we go to avoid, a place where we go to for comfort. And we fast simply to remind ourselves that those things don't have control over us. And we don't want to leave you unprepared for this. So 2 things. First thing, this guide, many of you got them last week. If you did not, there are some out in the foyer. You can grab one on your way out. And in this guide, you'll see an explanation of what fasting is. You'll also see this QR code right here. This QR code will take you to our website where you can get a guide that goes along with our fast. That a few times a week you can get into the Bible. You can pray as you work through the next 3 weeks. And we also, if you want a hard copy of one of those, it is on the table right outside this door on my left. And you can get a hard copy of one of those guides, or you can scan the QR code and do it virtually. On top of that, in just a moment, we're going to create some space for you to prepare yourself. In your program today, you got one of these cards right here. And on that card, the 3 questions. What have you chosen to fast from? Why did you choose that thing? And what do you hope to learn during these 21 days? What do you hope to learn? And in just a moment, we're going to give you some time to put pen to paper, to write down, what am I choosing to fast from, why am I choosing that, and what am I hoping to learn during these 21 days? And then not just stay there, we are going to ask you to write that, put it in this envelope, write your name on it, and put a physical movement, commitment also to this, and come and set it right here on the front of the stage. I know that can be uncomfortable, but maybe it's time for us to be uncomfortable. I think we're way too comfortable. But I don't want you, if you're not quite ready to make a commitment, that is okay. And you need some time. There is a basket out on that table as well. You can drop your card in there if that is easier for you, as long as you make a commitment. But for the rest of us, I want us to take some time, take a moment to pray. God, what are you inviting me to lay down so I can hear you and follow you a little bit more clearly? I want to allow some space here over these 21 days especially, to allow a holy discontent to grow, to interrupt our comforts. And if you're in here and you're not a Christian and you're like, this is kind of weird, I understand. This is a moment, I know you may not pray if you don't believe in prayer, and it may not be something where you fill this out and you commit to 21 days of prayer and fasting. That's okay. I want you to just think for a moment. What in my life has control over me? I like to think I'm the one in control, but what might be in control over me? So I want you to take just a moment. Grab these cards. If you don't have a pen, we can get you a pen. And I want you to pray for just a moment. And maybe some of you instantly know what it is you're going to write down. And when you're ready, put your name on it. Come set it right here on the front of the stage. Be willing to get uncomfortable for the sake of making the name Jesus known, because that's why we're here. Let me pray for us, and then I will pass it off to you guys to continue. Father, you are good, and now as we step into this time, may we ignore maybe some of the distractions, and even kind of maybe this moment feels a little weird and woo-woo to us, God. Just remove that from our minds. Remove any other eyes that maybe we think are on us. God, no one's looking at each other. Just remind us of that and just have a moment with you. And may we be brave enough to make a commitment and set it here on the stage so that we can see our church step into 1,000 people's lives through tables and make an impact with 1,000 hours served in our community. God, we love you. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen. Take a moment and pray.